Hello and good evening. Welcome to yet another episode of Get Set Go Beyond Sports with our Magica Asteria warriors once again. Magica is magic and Asteria is stars, and hence we say Magica Asteria, our magic star warriors. I'm so sorry. Who have not only made a mark in their fields as players in sports, but also as a representative of the sport. Encouragement through sports is what I have been bringing to you since 2019, and it's an honor to be on these platforms and once again live today with all of you. I would like to welcome our guest today from the field of female bodybuilding, Dr. Rita Jairath. Welcome, Dr. Jairath. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you so much for having me on board, and very good evening to you.
Thank you. Rita Jairath is one of the pioneering athletes in women bodybuilding from India, winning the prestigious pro card from the International Federation of Bodybuilding. She's also an IFBB-PRO League international judge and a part of the judging panel at the highest levels in international shows. She is an amazing Bharatnatyam dancer, being taught by Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan guru Saroya Vardhyanathan. She also has a business in New Delhi and is a guide and mentor to upcoming athletes. She has been listed first in the Forbes magazine on Women's Day in 2020. It is such an honor to be sitting with you, Dr. Rita. There is so many facets to you as a personality. I am really looking forward to these conversations today.
Thank you so much. And it really feels it's been a long journey, and it feels very, very special to have been acknowledged at this stage by you. It really means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rita. Now, I'm going to begin with this first question that I ask all my guests because that's primarily what Go Beyond Sports is all about. Why did you choose bodybuilding as a sport? And more than that, what aspect of sport really made you want to choose that? Why did you choose sports?
Mine is really not a conventional answer. I was always interested in health and fitness as a child. And while bodybuilding actually focuses a lot on the body composition and how you look on the appearance, but to achieve that kind of a stature with the body, you do need to work hard. So I think God knows her journey better. So maybe He was preparing me for it. But I really went to a gym for the first time when my son was already 15 years old. And being an autistic child, this was the first time he ever said that he wanted to do something with the gym, because at the time it was beginning of the era when we had Bollywood star coming up with muscular bodies. So I felt that, because he was otherwise very laid back with all the challenges that he had psychologically, I felt that this is something which he would like to do and would be more proactive in. And I must encourage him for more than one reason than just being the, in isolation, the exercise part, but much more beyond that. As we know that there are a lot of psychological aspects to exercising and physical activity. So I went along with him and I started training him. Maybe 2 decades ago, if you couldn't even imagine a woman doing weight training in a gym peacefully, especially heavyweight training. Resistance training, of course, has been there for a while, but weight training for competitive bodybuilding was absolutely unheard of. And people made fun. Not only just they made fun of me, they even opposed what I was doing, and I had to face a lot of resistance and go through arguments. And then with a special child like that, it became all the more complex for me. So I had to justify being there, and having gone through a lot of humiliation all my life. Not only with my child, my mother had schizophrenia too when I was young, since the time I was born. So having seen a lot of humiliation at every step of time, I always had to really go out of the way to prove myself. And that is when I actually took to getting qualified, so that I could, say with authority that whatever I'm doing is right. And so, in the process, I met a lot of people, and some fine people, some great gentlemen told me that why don't you compete in competitions. I started doing these bodylifting competitions. There was Dr. Andhir Hasti, who was the coach of the wrestler Khali, and he's trained, now he's no more, but he had trained many competitors who had done very well at the world level. And he always encouraged me that don't worry, you are special, because we don't have women doing this kind of training at all. And that is how I gradually went on to doing state level. And then I decided to compete. But once I decided to compete, there was no competitor in India at all. And even for the name's sake, there were some girls who went on stage with shorts and t-shirts, which wasn't actually the kind of bodybuilding which happens on the international level. So that kind of pushed me into initiating something and doing something new. And so I went and trained with some of the finest coaches in USA and across the world, in Kuwait. And then I competed in USA first, and then I represented India across the world. So the more you push a woman, I think she's bent upon proving herself, and I think that's how I got into it. So it's quite an unconventional process, but that's how it was.
I mean, it's it is such an amazing, motivating story, if I may say that, because it can go so many ways. Like the way you took it upon yourself to challenge yourself to go over this, and instead motivate yourself to be able to prove to yourself, perhaps, that
Yes.
look, here I am. And the conviction that you had in yourself to be able to know that, okay, I know what I am doing. And it doesn't always, so motivation, I mean, and I wish a lot of people would understand that motivation doesn't really always come through a negative way of wanting to prove yourself, but at most times it also just comes with you knowing that you perhaps are right in what you are doing. There is a reason why you have chosen to get motivated with what was offered to you. But I would like to touch upon a little bit more on your experience, like when you said that when you used to be working out in the gym back then. And I would not like to say even back then, because even today, while heavy weight lifting is perhaps getting into the system for a lot of women too, but this kind of pro bodybuilding is still very far and fetched few who really get into it. How have you been able to come out of those daily nudges that you have faced in the gym? And what would you tell the women who are out there probably facing the same things right now?
See, there are a lot of sides to it. Like, as you said very rightly, that it was not just to prove to the world. Why should we have anything to do to prove to the world after all? But and there was another thing, that since my child had these challenges, I hadn't probably done anything for myself for 2 decades. I was completely in isolation, absolute isolation, just doing nothing, maybe working, say, 36 hours a day in 24 hours, just looking after him. And this was when I began this. This was something which was totally untouched. And I felt that I have an inherent talent in it. So much so that recently, I'll just give you an example by taking a little detour from the fact that I went to a dentist and he said that your facial muscles are so strong that it is causing bruxism. So it's just that genetically in me, I felt that I had that inherent talent. And it was an opportunity for me to do something special and cover up for the time that I had lost out for maybe 20-25 years. That's a great amount of time when you consider a lifetime in the prime years
Right.
of your life. So
Right.
I wanted to do something, and I educated myself in the field. And one of the reasons why I was able to do it at all was that this isolation really, it may look negative, but it was the isolation that helped me, that I was doing without any interference whatever I wanted to do. um,
Right.
Generally, I meet women in the gym, and they are very they come to the gym, but they say, oh, my husband said that now you buy a house in the gym itself, you can do household work, why are you going to the gym to exercise? You are married, why do you want to have a good figure? now. So and there are people talking about them. And now, although since the last 4 or 5 years, bodybuilding has started, has come up in a big way in Indian women. It is still, if you, because we are in the field, so we see a lot of women, maybe a couple of hundreds. But if you consider the population of India, it's actually still nothing.
Right.
That there was a point where probably I was the only one, and so then there was one. Now we do have hundreds. Now bodybuilding is actually, if you look upon it, if you say it's actually a very positive sport. Anybody
Right.
who is losing fat and building the body, in a constructive way, to be able to perform the activities with strength and ability and energetically, with agility till the end of his
Right.
life, is actually building his or her body, whether it's a man or a woman.
Right. Right.
Competitive bodybuilding has not come in the real sense even now. It is a process.
Right.
It will not come in one day. It has to evolve over the years. When I see it
Right.
in women, when I went to, I was, there is a, paradox in it, that being the first one, I didn't have any access to to knowledge, but I was traveling
Right.
abroad, and I was competing amongst women and with coaches who knew the best, who were very evolved. So they knew
Right.
how to develop a camaraderie and a mutual respect for fellow competitors.
Right.
Whereas we in the beginning, when there were 5, 6, 7 women bodybuilders, in the first few years, everyone was kind of battling it out, that like, I am the first and I am the first.
Right.
So that wasn't very healthy. I always felt Sachin Tendulkar is not the first cricketer, but he's an all-time great. So what really matters
Right.
is who you are, how you are professionally, and what you become out of that. The person that you
Yes.
become by exercise, and any sports person, no matter what sports it is, to compete at an elite level, it requires, they have a shelf life which is not unlimited. There is a
True.
limit, no matter how good you are, because the kind of wear and tear, and the kind of chronic fatigue that sets in over a period of time, is definitely a process that will, that will decelerate your performance. So
Right.
you have to eventually retire. And what you
Right.
become and what you carry away from bodybuilding, that is what really matters. So
So
today, if you look at the society, the women who are already competing, for them, they haven't had the international exposure in the real sense, because incidentally, I don't say fortunately or unfortunately, it is there very much so in India now. So the
right.
kind of interaction that I got to do with women all over the world is
Right.
not present now. So now
Right.
they're, process, it will take time.
So how, so at our grassroots level, like, is there enough awareness of women bodybuilding for first and foremost? Because we, most of us, even as lay people, would be aware of a Mr. Maharashtra or a Mr. Andhra or a Mr. Kind of bodybuilding, you know, tournaments or competitions at kind of grassroots local levels. But then, do we really have so much for women, and are people even comfortable getting out there on a local level at a stage and say, show off their body, if that's how we can call it? Is how difficult is it to do something like this in our country, with our culture being so uh, conservative in a way?
Yes, that's an extremely complex situation. Um, there are a lot of girls who are there. Initially there was no support from any family, whosoever it was. Now we have girls whose parents are helping them out, and who are kind of encouraging them, because sometimes we see that women who go into unconventional fields, they do get a lot of attention. And there are women who have now begun, the society is undergoing an entire paradigm change, and we see women, who have unfulfilled dreams, and they were the kind of women who were not even allowed to go to school or complete their education, maybe 3 or 4 decades ago. So they kind of want, they're kind of super compensating, and they want their daughters to become stars. And so when the
Right.
target of bodybuilding should be to build your body, and then
Right.
you, if you have the genetic potential, you can take it to an international level. But when your
Right.
target is fame, if the target is fame, it's a problem, because I do
Right.
not have control over the rest of the competitors. You have, when you go to a competition, you have to, as I said, you have to come out and see what you have learned and what you have become. If you are
Right.
going to attach yourself to the competition's rewards, then it's going to really backfire. So people,
So,
there are girls who
right.
go on their own, they fight with their families, thinking that they will get adulation and love and attention from the larger audience. So the target and what they are looking for is the
Right.
actual problem. When I got
Right.
into bodybuilding, I had been into fitness throughout, although not conventional bodybuilding. And to this date,
Right.
I train every single day. I am doing Bharatnatyam. I have started a martial art called Kalaripayattu, which
Wow.
is almost a dying martial art. There are students in the class who say, I'm 30 years old and I have started. Kalaripayattu should be started at 6 years. What do I do? I'm so old. And when I say I'm well into my 50s, my son is 32, then they all
Right.
get quiet. And my teacher thanks me, says, thank you for being there. I don't have to, give the reply to them. So the thing is, the target should be that you want to do this. If you're doing it for fame or for
Right.
adulation, then there's a problem. And yes,
Right.
uh, when women wear bikinis and go on stage, then
Right.
then we do have an orthodox society. There are a lot of people on social media who keep messaging, you need to constantly block boys who are
Yes.
looking for crazy photo shoots or trying to just chat. They call you
Right.
Didi and they want to talk to you just for the sake of talking to you. So
Right.
it's a complex situation. People look upon you very differently. You have to
Right.
be very, very strong and firm about who you are. You have to be able to ignore and overlook a lot of things. And if you engage yourself in that, it's going to be very, very counterproductive in the sense. So a
Right.
woman has to be very, very stable and very matured and very evolved to handle
Right.
that part.
So, so Rita, where does India stand in terms of female bodybuilding championships today, and what is the representation of our bodybuilders on international platform?
Well, we have the shows by IFBB, the International Federation of
Right.
Bodybuilding, and seeing the first few bodybuilders, including me. I feel very good when a lot of girls come to me and say that we started because of you. That's the most gratifying thing I can imagine. But when they do go abroad. It is complex. It is like now we have competitions in India, international competitions being held in India. So when the
Right.
participation is low, then there are competitors who win. But the same competitors, after winning here, when they go abroad and they compete, it becomes very, very difficult to win, because not
Right.
only because of because they're not able to form the body in the right way. People are imagining themselves as stars because of Instagram following and not a genuine substance. So they are very deviated from the facts. They're not able to look at themselves objectively. They're not
Right.
able to go, instead of spending time on the Instagram, they'd rather go and do a lot of homework. These are challenges which need to be told. And
Right.
there is a lot of misguidance regarding steroids.
Yes,
And there is
I was gonna ask you a whole lot of questions on, how do you get to that level of building the body so much? Considering as a layman, most of the times we are only looking at usual workout, and even today we've come to this point that. Whether you're looking at building your body or not, but the moment you hit the gym, you have already been told the X number of powders and the X number of proteins and the X, the kind of things that have already penetrated the market, even at that level where you are just going out there to sort of maybe just be fit or maybe just do a walk on the treadmill and nothing more. But even on those grounds, there will always be a trainer, there will always be a friend, there will always be somebody who will say, okay, why don't you take the protein? And of course, as the uh, as that will to get stronger, fitter, build bigger muscles starts putting in, most men especially start resorting to all kinds of injections and steroids, and so it's kind of come down even to a lot of mainstream, I would say. So then how is it when you're actually professionally having to do this as a bodybuilder? And obviously there must be a process through which you kind of build your body to become the way it looks.
Yes. Now, see, there is a very basic difference between supplements and steroids. Um, Now, if you say, even if you're taking vitamin C, it is a supplement.
Right.
If you take the amount of vitamin C or the protein that is recommended by RDA even for a normal person,
Right.
then the kind of protein that is needed for a person who is doing very very heavyweight training, and then there is a kind of micro tears, micro trauma in the muscle, and that needs super compensation to build the muscle for protein
Right.
synthesis.
Right.
The kind of amount of protein you need, if you take all in whole foods, what happens is that you will be consuming actually a lot of calories. Now, if you
Right.
take a gross protein, what protein is? Everybody needs protein, like your skin, hair, nails,
Right.
everything is protein. Even your hormones are proteins. There's so much of protein that is
Right.
needed in your body.
Right.
Now, even if you're not doing anything, then you're not raising a finger, you're just lying on the bed. You need zero point 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight. So cancer patients who are undergoing chemotherapy, they lose so much of muscle mass. They need
Right.
supplementation. People who have diabetes need supplementation because they
Right.
cannot consume that kind of amount of food as the amount of
Right.
protein that is needed.
Right.
The supplement we have primarily is whey protein. Whey protein,
Right.
when milk curdles, it splits into the solid part and the liquid part. The liquid part is
Right.
actually whey protein. So
Right.
we have the advantage of R&D and science and technology, that the watery part is dried and isolated. The triglyceride, the lactose, the bad part is removed, and you have
Right.
whey protein for yourself. So actually, whey protein is a very good thing. I really wonder at people who don't bat an eyelid when they have Pepsi or Coca-Cola or a hamburger from McDonald's, but they worry about protein. We are made of protein.
That was going to be my question, really, because there is so much misinformation which follows protein, and so much misguidance, because a lot of even I would say a lot of trainers perhaps also would say, oh, only when you're working out you have your protein, stop your protein. Women will bulk up, or the moment you stop your protein you will put on weight. So there is so many of these things. How what would you say, and what information can you give us today to this?
No, see the protein. The problem. Let's come to the problems with protein. The problem with the protein is that people are not ready to pay GST and taxes, and they're not ready to get bills. So there is a lot of duplicate protein. You need to
Mm,
go to an authentic store. It's just the same for
got it.
medicine. So it's
Right.
the same
Right.
for vitamin C, and you go to a quack, you go to a registered doctor, there will be a difference. The doctor may charge
Right.
1,000 rupees consultation. I
Right.
know that there are people who are ready to spend 20,000 in a dress, which they're going to wear once, and then the photograph
Right.
comes on Facebook and they don't want to wear it again. But they would be so worried about paying the same amount to a trainer who is training them the entire month, a good trainer.
Right. Right.
So,
Absolutely.
whereas if you're fit, then you wear a 50 rupees shirt, it will look good on you. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it is the priorities, and you should be able to really see and filter out what is right and wrong. That is
Right.
definitely, you need to consult the right people.
Right.
So. Supplementation, if you're going to a gym, is needed. It's very very advisable. Uh, when you are doing very very heavy exercise, it is good to take vitamin C, it is good to take glutamine. It really enhances your performance. And say amino, 75% of the body, there are branch chain amino acids, which are essential amino acids, and they are not, you have to provide them in your diet. And people who are vegetarians, who don't have they may not be taking all first class proteins or essential amino acids, they need to definitely supplement themselves with the right amount of nutrients.
So
That
you
is.
would then I mean, like, from what I do understand is that you would highly recommend then perhaps starting your journey out with the nutrition, getting the right information about your body type, and trying to understand. So also then the question comes back, and like you did very rightly say that, you would spend 20 grand on a dress, but not on your supplements or not on going to the gym. But doesn't that then kind of make bodybuilding a slightly more expensive sport to kind of pursue for longer and to keep it going, where you reach a level which is perhaps at par with international levels, because let's say the lack of information or the lack of taking these kind of supplements, or having the kind of maybe even the bandwidth to have this kind of supplements at our grassroots levels?
Yes, absolutely. For competitive level, you need to spend money. See, the
Right.
problems with bodybuilding is that unfortunately, this is a market-driven sport. It is a subjective sport. I think that is
Right.
one of the reasons that when we discuss that, this is one of the reasons like subjective sports are not there in Olympics. They're not included in Olympics, not because of steroid that can be controlled and the blood test can be done by WADA and NADA. But the
Right.
problem with bodybuilding is it's a subjective sport. Like if you're running a race, you can check through the computers or the videography, that who came first, where there was a fraction of second of difference. It's very very clear. But when it is a subjective sport, it's a panel of judges, and there are so many parameters that there is a lot of scope for deviation, and being overlooked sometimes. Like if you go to Europe and there are competitions like Arnold Classic, there are like 80, 90, 100 competitors sometimes on stage, and to pick 5 or 10 out of them so quickly is really an art. So it is, and it is market driven sport. That is the reason why
So
you see
what is your
bodybuilding.
so I would love to get your experience here as an international judge. What are the parameters that you look for, and how do you pick out of all of the hundreds? Like really, I'm sure it's a very short process. You kind of got to make your judgment in a way very very quickly. So what do you look for, and how do you pick them?
See, when we kind of call them in groups, and then we pick up 10 from every group, and then we think and we discuss amongst ourselves. We have a head judge. The people who have been judging have been like judging it for shows like that for say 20 years, 10 years, 20 years. The senior most judges. We always have an international panel who have, we say that the more difference is there in the perception, we consider it very healthy because we even out each other.
Right.
The parameters that we see are the conditioning, the balance, symmetry,
Right.
and the general aesthetics, the proportions. So these are the things
Right.
that we consider, and the musculature, of course. That the
Right.
musculature is, you see a well-defined, well-developed musculature. What the
Right.
International Federation of Bodybuilding has done, that they have now divided, they've come up with different kind of classes and
Right.
divisions. So
Right.
instead of first we had just pure bodybuilding, now in women itself there are 5 divisions. Like we have
Right.
the figure, the bikini division, the wellness division, the fitness division.
Right.
In fitness, you
Right.
have gymnastic moves. In bikini division, you don't have to be muscular at all. Actually, you just need a good
Wow.
hourglass structure, and they just see a well-toned body. So then we have a wellness division where we prefer, if you are too muscular, then we mark them down, because we want a kind of all-inclusive kind of sport where we can accommodate more and more people. Earlier, when you just had pure bodybuilding, say in 70s, 80s, then you just had one big body and there were just a handful of bodybuilders in the world. But people
Right.
were absolutely fascinated by it, and especially after Arnold came in, it became a big,
Right.
big thing. But now, to make it all inclusive and commercially viable, also not only commercially viable, but to emphasize
Right.
on the value of keeping strong and fit, and how
Right.
aesthetics and strength are related. So we have
Right.
different divisions. That's something very 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 healthy for the
Right.
society in general, which IFBB has done.
So I'm gonna come to that when you talk about having, not even requiring to be as muscular to be for a figure bodybuilder. how did you fit in dance into all of this? I mean, it is two such different, when you kind of look at it, something one is very strong and the other one is so soft and graceful. How did you bring the two together?
Okay, as for if you think of the chronological orders in my life, how it went by in the timeline, it's like I was in Chennai for very many years, and I had learned Bharatnatyam for many years, in the beginning, and this was something that I had given up. As I said, I had spent more than 20 years just doing nothing except looking after my son, and then when it came to bodybuilding, I really lost it. But once I
Ah,
retired, and I
yes.
wanted, this was an unfulfilled dream which I wanted to get back to. And
Right,
I must say that uh, when when I was doing this in childhood, when I was in Chennai, then I was totally into Bharatnatyam, and I really related to it. But after doing bodybuilding, I realized that you need sometimes greater strength, and there is a kind of strength also. Whereas in you're only in bodybuilding, if you look at it technically, you are contracting your muscles, you are just concentrating on something called hypertrophy and the growth
yes,
of muscles. But here it is like isometric holds, that you are
right,
focusing on endurance. And then
right,
I realized that over a period of time, I was now focusing the slow twitch muscle fibers, and my fitness became more rounded and more complete, and that
right,
really fascinated me. My teacher
right,
looked, she could do things which I couldn't do, and I was like, I really had a huge complex that, oh, I mean, like, she might say you're a bodybuilder and you can't do this. No, I have to do this.
right,
So I
right,
was like, I had a challenge, and doing it all over again gave me a great sense of accomplishment. And I also
right,
related to Shiva. That you have a lot of controlled energy. It looks very graceful, but to make
right,
it look easy and to make it look graceful, you need another extreme strength, and you need to we
right,
have a great control amount of controlled energy. It's not like Zumba that you just go very energetically around, but you may be standing still, but just to hold yourself in a certain position, which is like for in the aramandi, or we call natya rambha. It takes an immense amount of strength. So that kind of did two things: that it rounded off the kind of fitness I was focusing on for a very prolonged period of time. And
right.
I realized that how analogous these two things are, that they actually complement each other. So it
Right.
is
So
something
would you say then, Dr. Rita, that um, while you did them in succession to each other, do you think that it is possible really to have two of them together at the same time, at the same platform, considering, like you just mentioned, that both of them require such different, what do you say, varieties of muscles that are in use and at play at both times? Is it possible? In which is, and the question comes from the fact that. I remember I was talking to one of these actor models who also played sport, and I said, "How easy is it for you to be sporting and do your sports, while at the same time to remain glamorous and do the things that you would like to?" And and even she said that sometimes it is very difficult because you may want your longer nails, but because you're in a sport, you cannot do that. So um, that's kind of very trivial compared to when you're talking about the use of two very different kinds of large muscle and a small muscle from the body. So what is your thought on this?
No, actually, they complement each other. And I feel that when people are doing bodybuilding, they sometimes see when you're flexing a muscle, you're actually contracting it, and you're developing only the visible muscles. So the internal
Right,
muscles, they remained. The musculature develops so much, but your tendons and ligaments are compromised. That can, in
right,
the long run, cause wear and tear and injury. So
right,
people who are bodybuilding for their therapeutic modalities, they're advised yoga, maybe on weekends, and just to
right,
recover and create a balance. But here we're doing both of these. So it's like a dynamic yoga that you're doing, and it helps to understand the spatial visual coordination. It creates
right,
greater awareness of the body, and it's kind of a, if you talk about Bharatnatyam, it's based on Natya Shastra. So there is a
right,
spiritual side to it. So it just makes everything so much more ecstatic, and they are actually helping each other. And
right,
I understand when you say that, because I googled, and I search for somebody who is doing both, and I don't know what Google says, but it turns out to be only me doing Bharatanatyam and bodybuilding together. But whereas I
Right.
talk, I feel that they are actually the same somewhere down the line. Why not find universality and commonality in everything? You know, everything is
Right.
actually having an analogy, and they are really the same. So if you find that, it's very ecstatic. It's very, very fascinating.
I would love to agree with you so much more than I can even express it right now, because being multifaceted, why people like the idea, the fact that you cannot be um, good at everything at one go is something that is so incomprehensible for so many people. Because, like, when you start something new, they would say, go one thing at a time. Do not jump in. Do not start everything together. Like let's say the idea of doing bodybuilding and dancing and academics. Like, you would say that, okay, on a weekend, do this. On probably 3 days a day, you do bodybuilding. 2 days, I will study. So while you have put all of it into your daily routine and into your system of your life, the outsiders would say, don't you think you're doing too much at one go? Don't you think you should concentrate probably just on your academic right now, or just on your. And I think somewhere perhaps that could be also one of the reasons why we as Indian, and possibly so many Indian parents, when it comes to the choice between sports and academics, at most times they are unable to choose between. They have to kind of choose between rather than choose both. And so again, like, what would be your thought on actually being multifaceted, or being able to have so many different aspects of your life? Like, I would really be very fascinated to know.
You see, yesterday I had a talk on there was an international seminar where we were talking about the new education policy and the post-COVID challenges. And
Right.
one of the things, we had educators from across the world, from Greece, from Bangladesh, and in India, of course. So whenever I talk about this subject, when it comes to education, one thing I always mention, because I so strongly believe in, is that when you are doing say graduation, if you're doing it like my son did his graduation and post graduation from UK, they have the kind of flexibility in their syllabus. You can choose biochemistry and Bharatnatyam and then do it together and be a
Yeah.
graduate.
Right.
But in India, if you have done like I have done I was doing my graduation in science, and then for some reasons I had to leave it, and then I graduated in mathematics. Then I did a postgraduate diploma in fitness science, and then I did my MBA, and then I got the doctorate from the United Nations. Now the problem is that I wanted to do a postgraduate course in food and nutrition, so I wanted to do MSc. So just because I don't have BSc, I cannot do MSc
Right.
no matter how much I know about fitness and nutrition. So
Right.
I have really raised this topic on every platform, that why do we think that we should slot ourselves, in
Right.
fixed things? Why cannot we have, why not find, you can find the universe in an atom if you look at it. So
Right.
everything is actually, if you experience it from the soul, it is really the same. So
Right.
I always say that you should be able to pick up whatever you want to do and then do them together. And
Right.
if you take one subject, when you talk about being multifaceted, say chemistry, there may be organic chemistry you may like, there may be a certain chapter you may not like, and you may not
Right.
like certain aspects of chemistry. Like if you have physics, you have relativity, or you have astronomy, there may be
Right.
certain subtopics that you like, certain subtopics that you do not like. But if you like something in one and something like in stream two, you should be able to do them together, and
Right.
create a personality of your own, which is so unique. Isn't that
Right.
beautiful? So
It's
it is how
amazing.
you
It is
think of it.
amazing.
Yes, it's how you think of
I
it.
mean, and that is perhaps why Forbes chose you to be on the first place at their Women's Day in this year itself.
Actually,
That.
that was on for Women's Day, and that was because of the kind of the series of things that have happened in my life. I've
Yes.
had been through a kind of great kind of struggle, because
Yes.
of which my life is so topsy turvy. And but I found my soul in that itself.
Yes.
When I was born, my mother had schizophrenia, and I had quite a challenging childhood, and then I had a very
Right.
very difficult married life, and then I've gone through a lot with my son. That was quite a journey.
Right.
there is a web series coming on my life by the name of Aparajita. Maybe you will soon hear about it.
Thank
There's
you
already
so much for
work
telling
going
us
on,
about
and
this.
there's a book being written. So I think that story is pretty elaborate. But I mean, like, definitely, I'm sure that you'll hear about it. But that was basically the Forbes mention was for the kind of struggle and in challenging circumstances I was
Right.
able to evolve and emerge
We
as
are so glad you are on this platform with us, Dr. Rita, today, because there is so much that we have learned. And in fact, there is so much motivation that we are taking back with all of us, and so much inspiration, because it's not only just the words, but with the energy and the conviction that that you are able to advocate what you are speaking. I think that itself is it's so convincing that we all would go back and really give a thought to our own lives to actually see where we really are, and the ease with which we certainly sometimes have things we do not even realize where and why we make it so challenging for ourselves while it's not even there. So
Yeah,
on yeah,
I would like to say one thing that see, when
yeah,
I trained my child, he was told that he will never be able to speak, and so
right,
at that was a point in my life where I had lost like everything. I had nothing to
right,
lose, so I thought that the only thing I would do is just to take this impossible challenge which doctors say you cannot do. Maybe it will take 20 years. I said, I will give 20 years. I have nothing else to look forward to. So
right.
I broke it down into baby steps, and 1 year, 2 year, and then he went on to do his post graduation from UK.
Amazing.
He's still not normal, but he's very much far, far above what he might have been
Right,
otherwise had I not,
right.
taken the initiative. So that kind of the same analogy I apply to myself. Now, when I started Kalaripayattu, it is a martial art. It is one of the toughest arts in the world. It's the mother
Yes,
of all martial arts. It was used for warfare.
yes,
It's a 6, 7 year old child who starts that, and I was like so fascinated by it. I started it in my 50s, and in
right,
everything I have done, whether I restarted Bharatnatyam, whether I did Kalaripayattu, I am the clumsiest and the stupidest in the beginning. What I have in me is the ability to laugh at myself. And I have gone and learned with children who are in nursery and 6-year-olds also, and then graduated on to perform at a good stage. So I would just like to say one thing, that if at all there is anything you feel that this is insurmountable, that is only in your mind, because you are so hesitant and shy to look clumsy. If you are able to look clumsy in front of everybody and say that you have that confidence in your mind that 10 years from now you will be the best, and let
right.
everybody laugh at me and I will laugh at myself. If you can do that, then there's nothing that you cannot do. That is what I
This
would like
is
to say.
this is such an amazing thing that you have said. Thank you. It's a wow. I think I'm for once, sort of just absorbing all of these things that you are saying. It is I would love to go on and on and on, but thank you so much for the time that you have taken out to be with us. And yes, we hope to be close to where you are in all of these things that you have shared with us. I am sure that most of us will go back today and rethink our own lives. Um, Thank you so much for being on this platform once again. And thank you to everybody who's watching. Thank you for your support every single time, for all the likes, for the comments, for being a part of Go Beyond Sports. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everybody. Wish you all a beautiful life.
Thank you.